My wife slept with her coworker and thought she could outsmart me, but she never saw the trap I set with her lover's wife to blow up her world. My wife, Celeste, 34, female, had been hyping up this dinner for weeks like it was the Super Bowl. Apparently, throwing a perfect dinner party was the new way to get noticed at her telecommunications firm. She framed it like a career investment, not a request. "If we nail this, it'll put me on the radar for the big accounts," she said. By 7 p.m., the place looked flawless. Guests started rolling in: Celeste's boss, a couple of senior execs from her department, Kenny, her work bestie, and their spouses. I played the polite host. People were impressed. Even her boss told me, "This is one of the best setups I've seen in years." I just smiled. Celeste shot me this look like she'd personally built Rome. Dinner actually went well at first. Everyone was laughing, joking, telling stories about marriage compromises. It was light, fun, exactly the vibe she wanted. Then, like always, Celeste got greedy for attention. She stood up, glass raised, like she was about to thank me for the night. For a split second, I thought, wow, maybe she's going to give me credit. Stupid thought. She smirked and said, "When I married David 8 years ago, I thought I was getting the whole package. Tall, successful, impressive in every way." She paused, looked right at me. Turns out, some packages are way smaller than advertised. She pinched her fingers together to drive the point home, barely a centimeter apart. The room went dead silent. You could hear forks hit plates. Some people stared at their food. Some shifted uncomfortably, but everyone definitely heard her. She chuckled, not realizing she was the only one laughing. "They say it's not the size of the boat, it's the motion of the ocean, right? Well, let's just say David's more of a rowboat, and he never learned to row." That's when it clicked. This wasn't drunk Celeste running her mouth. This was calculated. This was her trying to make herself look clever in front of her colleagues by tearing me down. Now, I could have gotten angry. I could have stormed off, slammed a door, thrown her wine in her face. But that's not me. I don't take disrespect and smile. I go sharp. So I let the silence hang. I let her think she won the moment. And then I leaned back in my chair, gave her a slow clap, and said, "Wow, Celeste. 8 years of marriage and the best material you've got is playground jokes. You know what? Thanks for saving me the trouble. This marriage is done. You just proved you don't respect me, and I don't live with disrespect." Dead silence. Her boss nearly spit out his drink. Kenny stared at the table like it was the most interesting piece of furniture on earth. A couple of the wives gave each other the holy shit look. Celeste froze, glass halfway to her lips, face pale. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just said it like a business decision. Calm. Final. That was it. The dinner limped on for another 5 minutes. Then people started bailing fast. By 9:30, the house was empty except for me and Celeste. She finally snapped out of her shock and tried to play it off. "Oh, come on, David. Don't be so dramatic. It was just a little joke. Everyone does it. You destroy your husband, you get a laugh. That's how these things work." I didn't even bother answering. I just cleared plates, put on gloves, and started stacking dishes like she wasn't even in the room. She hated being ignored more than anything. She stomped off, muttering something about me being insecure. Good. Let her think that. By midnight, the house was quiet again. Celeste was upstairs, probably rehearsing excuses in the mirror. I was in the living room scrolling my phone when it buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Your wife humiliated you tonight. Mine's been cheating with your wife for months. Want proof?" My pulse jumped. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came quick. "Tiana, Kenny's wife. We need to talk tomorrow. Coffee shop downtown. I'll show you everything." I sat back on the couch, phone glowing in my hand. So this wasn't just disrespect. It was betrayal. Celeste thought she'd humiliated me tonight. She had no idea what she'd actually done was give me the green light to end her career, her affair, and her ego in one clean strike. And the best part, she wouldn't even see it coming. The next morning, Celeste tried to run damage control. She came downstairs all chipper, like she hadn't just torched our marriage in front of her entire department. She was in her silk robe, hair tied back, coffee mug in hand, like she was about to film a commercial for Perfect Mornings. "Hey," she said lightly, sliding into the chair across from me. "So, last night..." I didn't answer right away. I just stirred my coffee, let her sweat. She tried again. "Look, you know how I get when I've had a few glasses. I was just joking around. Everyone does it." No one took it seriously. I raised an eyebrow. "Your boss didn't look like he thought it was hilarious." That made her flinch. Just a quick one, but I caught it. She forced a laugh. "Oh, come on, David. You can't seriously be mad over a dumb comment. You know I love you." There it was, the pivot. She knew she'd gone too far and now she was trying to claw back. "Celeste," I said calmly, "last night you stood in front of your CO workers and mocked me like I was some clown for your office circus. That wasn't a joke. That was you showing everyone how little respect you have for me." Her face cracked for a second, then she put on the soft voice. "Please don't say that. I was drunk. I didn't mean it. Don't throw away 8 years over this." If she only knew. If she knew Tiana had already handed me the playbook to her little side project with Kenny, she'd realize this conversation was nothing but theater. But I kept my face neutral, even let out a sigh like I was tired Dwara of fighting. "Fine, maybe I overreacted. Let's just move on." Her whole body relaxed. She even reached across the table and grabbed my hand, squeezing it with fake relief. "Thank you. I knew you'd understand. You're not the type to let one little thing ruin us." I forced a small smile. "Yeah, one little thing." She thought she was safe again. She thought her crocodile tears and drunk talk excuse had worked. But in my head, the decision was already locked. She was done. All I needed to do now was make her believe she was winning while I set up her downfall. By lunchtime, I was on my way to meet Tiana. She was already there when I walked in, sitting at a corner table with her phone out. Tired eyes that screamed she hadn't slept well in weeks, but she was put together. No mess, no pity party look. That alone told me I could respect her. She gave me a small nod. "David." "Tiana," I said, taking the seat across from her. "Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure if you would." I leaned back. "After last night, let's just say I'm very motivated." That earned me the first real smile I'd seen from her. Then she slid her phone across the table. "I'll make this quick. 3 weeks ago, I found these on Kenny's phone." The screen lit up with a text thread between Kenny and Celeste. Messages dating back months. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Hotel is booked for Thursday, same place as usual. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you." I scrolled further. Screenshots, photos, timestamps that matched Celeste's girls' nights. And then the part that hit hardest, when they talked about me. "Does he suspect anything?" "David, please. He's too insecure to question me. I could tell him I'm cheating and he'd apologize for not being good enough." I set the phone down slowly. Wow, she's really got away with words. Tiana didn't flinch. "There's more." She pulled a small manila folder from her bag. Inside, hotel receipts charged to our joint card, restaurant bills, even screenshots of Celeste's private group chats with friends where she mocked me. I flipped through it like I was reviewing a boring report at work. On the outside calm, on the inside already cataloging every piece for the case I was going to bury Celeste with. "So, what's your angle?" I asked finally. Tiana met my eyes. "I'm a corporate attorney. I know how to build airtight cases. I've been documenting everything. Receipts, phone records, screenshots. But I need you to keep acting normal. Don't confront her. Don't change your behavior. Let her think she's safe while we pile up evidence." I couldn't help smirking. "So basically, we let them keep digging until they fall in." "Exactly," she said. "And when we're ready, we drop the hammer. Professionally, financially, socially, legally. No drama, no screaming, no he said, she said, just facts." I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "I like the way you think." Tiana gave a half laugh. "Honestly, it feels good just saying this out loud to someone who isn't lying to my face." We sat there a while longer, going over details. By the time I left that coffee shop, I wasn't angry anymore. I was energized. Celeste thought she'd embarrassed me, that she'd gotten away with it. What she didn't know was I now had a partner just as motivated as me to bring her entire little empire crashing down. As I stepped out into the sunlight, I checked my phone. Celeste had sent me a text. "I love you. Thanks for forgiving me this morning. Let's forget all of this ever happened." I stared at the message for a second, then slid the phone back into my pocket. Forget? Not a chance. Celeste had no idea she had just walked herself into the biggest trap of her life. She thought my forgiveness text meant we were back to normal. Meanwhile, I was already living 2 lives. On the surface, I was the same calm, reliable husband. Underneath, I was cataloging every slip-up, every expense, every excuse she tossed out like it was evidence in a trial. It wasn't hard. She practically handed me the rope. Meanwhile, Tiana and I were moving fast. She'd already hired a PI, a guy who didn't just take blurry photos from across the street. This dude had timestamps, license plates, high-res shots of Celeste and Kenny walking into hotels, restaurants, even the gym they coincidentally went to together. There was Celeste arm in arm with Kenny walking into a downtown hotel at 8:45 p.m. on a Wednesday. At 8:50, my badge log showed me swiping into the office on the other side of town. The timestamps lined up perfectly. She couldn't spin it any other way. She really thought she was untouchable. The receipts were another gold mine. Celeste had convinced me months ago that her career move required more networking dinners and professional image upkeep. Translation: joint credit card charges at restaurants I'd never set foot in, and spa visits she claimed were for confidence. When Tiana lined them up next to Kenny's bank withdrawals and travel history, it was like a puzzle snapping into place. And then came the jackpot, Celeste's laptop. I'd never gone through it before. Call it respect, call it naivete. I just didn't bother. But after Tiana pointed out how careless cheaters get, I gave it a try one evening when Celeste left for another girls' night. There it was, a folder called Work Projects. Cute camouflage. Inside, hundreds of explicit photos and videos of her and Kenny. Some taken in hotels, some in his car, and some, the ones that really hit, taken in our bedroom. The bed I paid for, the space I'd built. I didn't rage. I didn't break anything. I just plugged in an external drive, copied the folder, and closed it like I'd just finished checking emails. But the cherry on top wasn't even the videos. It was the Word document titled Journal. Page after page of Celeste's inner thoughts, not romantic, not guilty, just contempt. She wrote about how boring I was, how Kenny was more exciting, how she'd drain as much financial benefit as possible before leaving. One entry stuck out. Kenny says I should feel guilty lying to David. But honestly, it's almost his fault for being so oblivious. If he paid more attention to me, maybe he'd notice I don't smell like book club. Book club, that was her excuse for months. And here she was mocking me in her digital diary like I was some clueless sitcom husband. I copied the whole thing, de-stamped it, and added it to the folder Tiana and I were building. At home, I kept playing my role. The calmer I was, the more smug she got. She even tried guilting me into paying for a career development workshop in Chicago, 2 nights, expensive hotel, flights, all of it conveniently matching Kenny's business trip. I refused. Obviously. Tiana and I became a solid team. She wasn't bitter or sloppy, she was sharp. We'd meet twice a week, compare notes, and keep stacking evidence. The PI fed us photos. Tiana lined up the itemized phone records from our carrier statements, timestamps of every call, every text, all matched against Kenny's schedule. I handled the digital side, emails, receipts, Celeste's laptop. There were moments where Tiana would laugh at how entitled Celeste sounded in her messages. She really thinks she's running the game, she said once, scrolling through a text where Celeste bragged to Kenny about manipulating me. She's playing checkers, I said, sipping my coffee. We're playing chess. By the end of that month, we didn't just have suspicion. We had a case that would make any lawyer drool. Receipts, timestamps, videos, journal entries, PI surveillance, even proof she used our joint account to pay for Kenny's gym membership. All neat, all documented, all ready. The only thing left was patience. Celeste thought she was living her best life, juggling me and Kenny, playing Career Woman of the Year. I let her enjoy it. The higher she climbed on her little pedestal, the harder the fall would be when Tiana and I kicked it out from under her. So every morning I kissed her on the cheek, packed her lunch, and waved as she drove off. And every night I added another piece to the file that was going to end her career, her relationship, and her ego in one strike. At this point, it wasn't about catching Celeste anymore. It was about planning the stage for her downfall. And Tiana, credit where it's due, had a mind like a sniper. She called me one afternoon, voice calm like she'd already run the math. I have an idea. We don't just expose them privately. We do it publicly. Controlled. One big detonation instead of a bunch of small sparks. I like the sound of that. Go on. She explained her plan, a fake promotion dinner for Kenny. Invite his department, their bosses, HR, senior partners. Tell them it's a surprise party. Everyone would show up expecting to celebrate Kenny. Instead, they'd watch his career implode in real time. I couldn't help but laugh. That's diabolical. I'm in. And just like that, the trap went from collection to execution. Tiana handled the invites and logistics. She had connections in the restaurant scene, so booking a private dining room wasn't hard. I handled the divorce paperwork and made sure every receipt, screenshot, and photo was neatly indexed in the evidence package. Between the two of us, it was airtight. One night, about 2 weeks before the promotion dinner, I was in my office upstairs when I heard her voice. She was downstairs in the living room, phone pressed to her ear, pacing like she was running strategy for a political campaign. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but when someone's practically yelling, you hear it. After your promotion, I'll leave him and we'll finally be together, she whispered, like she was delivering some movie line. Promotion. Oh, Celeste. She was banking her whole future on Kenny moving up at work, which was hilarious because Tiana and I were literally planning to get him canned. She kept going. Yeah, he's buying all of it. He actually thinks I want to fix things. After you get promoted, we'll have everything lined up. Just hold on a little longer. She laughed, that fake little giggle she used on her CO workers. I sat there in silence, staring at the ceiling, letting the satisfaction sink in. She thought she was using me as a financial bridge until Kenny's imaginary promotion catapulted them into their new life. In reality, Kenny was walking into his own funeral. The next day, I told Tiana what I overheard. She raised an eyebrow, half amused, half annoyed. She really thinks Kenny is getting promoted. Apparently, that's her escape plan, I said, sipping my coffee. Ride me financially until his career takes off, then dump me and run. Tiana shook her head. Delusional. Kenny is already under review for office conduct. Once HR sees the evidence, His promotion will be him cleaning out his desk. I grinned, which makes it even better. She's hitching her wagon to a guy about to get axed. Tiana chuckled, and I could tell she was enjoying this almost as much as I was. Let's make sure the right people are in that room when it happens. I worked on the evidence presentation. We didn't want just rumors. We wanted receipts, screenshots, and proof that no one could spin. Tiana and I created a shared folder, PI photos of hotel meetings, credit card statements, Celeste's journal entries, Kenny's call logs, all time-stamped, all cross-referenced. It wasn't just infidelity, it was fraud, deception, and company resources being misused, enough to nuke Kenny's career and make Celeste radioactive in her own industry. At home, Celeste was glowing. She thought the universe was finally bending in her favor. She'd tell me about upcoming opportunities and how Kenny was making waves at work. Every time she dropped a smug little comment, I had to fight the urge to laugh. One evening, she even said, "You'll see, David. Things are going to change soon. You'll thank me later." I just nodded. I'm sure I will. If only she knew how right she was, just not in the way she imagined. By the end of the month, the stage was set, invitations sent, evidence locked, divorce papers prepped. Celeste was too busy planning her fantasy future with Kenny to notice me moving silently in the background. On the surface, I was still the calm, steady husband. Behind the curtain, I was the executioner, polishing the blade. And when the night came, she'd walk right into it with a smile. The promotion dinner was scheduled for a Friday night at one of those upscale downtown restaurants with a private dining room. The kind of place where the plates are more decoration than food, and everyone whispers like they're at a museum. Perfect stage for what was about to happen. Celeste was electric that night. She spent 2 hours getting ready, tried on 3 dresses before settling on a black one that screamed, "Look at me." She spritzed perfume, practiced her fake laugh in the mirror, and asked me, without irony, if I thought she looked powerful. Powerful? Yeah, sure, I said, keeping a straight face. You'll make an impression. She smirked, satisfied. If only she knew. We got to the restaurant and the room was already buzzing. 20-some people, including Kenny's department, his bosses, HR, and even a couple of senior partners Celeste had been desperate to impress. Everyone was mingling, sipping sparkling water, trading work gossip. Kenny walked in with his usual wannabe alpha strut, shaking hands, patting shoulders like he had just closed a billion-dollar deal. Celeste lit up like Times Square when she saw him. I caught it. So did Tiana. The way Celeste's eyes tracked Kenny was like a dog waiting for a treat. Tiana gave me the smallest nod from across the room. Game time. Dinner went as expected at first. Small talk, appetizers, laughter. Kenny looked like he was waiting for his big moment, like HR was about to crown him king. Celeste was practically glowing, laughing a little too loud, brushing his arm casually when no one was supposed to notice. Everyone noticed. At exactly 8:15, right after the main course was cleared, everyone's phones buzzed at once. An email from HR hit their inboxes. Compliance department heads and a couple of VPs were copied. It linked to a redacted evidence folder Tiana had submitted earlier that afternoon. The email contained a neatly organized evidence packet, receipts, screenshots, PI photos, all redacted for anything explicit but clear enough to leave zero doubt. One by one, people opened it on their phones. Faces shifted from curiosity to disgust in real time. Gasps, whispers, a couple of oh my gods. Celeste noticed first. "What's going on?" she asked, smile faltering. No answer, just 20 pairs of eyes flicking between their screens and her. Kenny leaned toward one of his CO workers. "Everything okay?" The guy recoiled like Kenny had just coughed in his face. Celeste's voice rose. "Why is everyone staring at us?" That's when Tiana stood up, calm, collected, like she'd been rehearsing in her head for weeks. "What you're all reading," she said clearly, "is proof that my husband Kenny and Celeste have been carrying on an affair for months. Hotel receipts, credit card charges, explicit messages, photographs, all of it documented and verified." The room went dead silent except for Celeste's sharp inhale. Tiana kept going, her voice steady. "This isn't speculation, this isn't gossip, this is fact. And since both of them thought it was acceptable to use company time, company resources, and joint marital funds for their little escapades, it affects more than just our marriages. It affects this workplace." Celeste shot up from her chair, face red. "This is insane, she's lying." I finally spoke, calm as ever. "Really? Then maybe you can explain why your journal entries are in the file, the ones where you wrote about draining me financially until Kenny's promotion, then leaving me." A ripple went through the room. Kenny froze, his whole act crumbling in seconds. Celeste's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She looked around, desperate for backup, but all she saw were glares. I leaned forward slightly, letting the sarcasm drip. Guess the promotion plan didn't cover getting exposed in HD. Half the room tried not to laugh. The other half didn't bother hiding it. Right on cue, the door opened. A process server walked in holding 2 envelopes. He walked straight to Celeste first, set the papers down in front of her. Divorce petition. You've been served. Then he turned to Kenny. Another envelope. Same for you. Kenny's hands shook as he reached for it. Celeste didn't touch hers. She just stared at the envelope like it was ticking. Tiana stepped forward. Both divorces were filed this morning. All evidence has already been submitted to HR, to compliance, and to our attorneys. Tonight isn't about revenge, it's about accountability. The room was buzzing again. Whispers everywhere. Kenny's boss had his phone out, probably already texting HR. Celeste's boss looked like someone had just pulled the floor out from under his career ladder. Celeste turned to me, eyes wide, voice shaking. David, please, we can fix this. Don't do this here. I stood, straightened my jacket, and looked her dead in the eye. You humiliated me in front of your colleagues weeks ago. Difference is, I'm not using lies, I'm using facts. You wanted a show? Here it is. The last thing I saw before walking out was Celeste crumbling into her chair, face buried in her hands, while Kenny muttered "not like this" under his breath. The trap had sprung, clean, surgical, exactly how I wanted it. By Monday morning, the dominoes were already falling. Kenny didn't even make it through the week. HR called him into a meeting first thing, and by lunch he was escorted out with a cardboard box of his desk junk. 8 years of trying to climb the ladder, gone in a single email chain. Tiana sent me a photo later that day. Kenny standing outside the office, tie loose, face red, box in hand. She captioned it "Promotion Day." As for Celeste, she lasted a few more days. Technically they let her resign, but let's be real. It was either resign or get canned. The story spread fast. Corporate types love gossip, and an affair mixed with company policy violations is like blood in the water. By Friday, she was officially unemployed. The fall from grace was brutal to watch, and honestly entertaining. These two thought they were going to upgrade their lives by cutting corners and playing dirty. Instead, they got tossed out like spoiled leftovers. Celeste, meanwhile, was scrambling. She tried applying at other firms, but her reputation followed her like a bad smell. Word was out. She wasn't just unprofessional, she was reckless. No serious firm wanted that kind of liability. So she downgraded. Started picking up temp jobs, assistant roles way beneath what she thought she deserved. For a woman who bragged about being on the rise, working part-time admin at a boutique agency had to feel like eating dirt. But Celeste wasn't just struggling financially, she was spiraling mentally. That's when the desperate stunt started. First, she tried to smear me, told mutual friends I was controlling, that I'd set her up, that I'd hacked her laptop and fabricated evidence. Problem was, Tiana and I had such airtight documentation that no one bought it. Screenshots, receipts, timestamps, PI footage. You can't fake all that. When the rumors didn't stick, she escalated. She tried to get spousal support through the divorce case, and on top of that filed a separate claim for emotional distress because I'd ruined her career. I almost laughed when the paperwork arrived. Tiana hooked me up with a family law contact who was practically giddy to handle it. Court day came, and Celeste strutted in like she was about to deliver a TED Talk. Her lawyer tried painting me as some bitter ex who wanted revenge. Then my lawyer calmly dropped the receipts, credit card statements, her journal entries, explicit photos. Even her texts bragging about bleeding me dry until Kenny got promoted. The judge barely let her finish her rant before shutting it down. Case dismissed. Celeste left the courtroom red-faced, muttering about appeals that never came. Kenny wasn't faring any better. He and Celeste tried living together for a while after the implosion. But without money or careers to prop them up, the cracks showed quick. Neighbors started noticing the fights. Loud, nasty, constant. One neighbor even recorded a screaming match in their apartment parking lot. Celeste shouting that Kenny had ruined her life. Kenny firing back that she was dead weight who wasn't worth losing his marriage over. The video leaked online. I'd be lying if I said I didn't watch it more than once. Kenny moved back in with his parents in the suburbs. Not exactly the power move Celeste had been fantasizing about. Tiana and I would trade updates sometimes, both of us shaking our heads at how fast they burned each other down. She put it perfectly one night, we didn't even need to finish them off. They're finishing themselves. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Work gave me another promotion. Apparently, handling your personal life with precision and not letting it bleed into your job is impressive to senior management. I bought a condo downtown, upgraded my car, started hitting the gym harder. My life was leveling up while Celeste's was collapsing like a bad Jenga tower. And I'll admit, I enjoyed the contrast. Celeste once wrote in her journal that I was stable but boring. Well, boring paid for her hotels. Boring kept the lights on. Boring was now living in a skyline condo while she was scraping by on temp jobs. Funny how that works. But Celeste couldn't leave well enough alone. After the court loss, after the failed smear campaign, she still tried to poke at me. She sent long, rambling emails, half apologies, half accusations, One started with, "I know I hurt you, but you destroyed me worse," and ended with, "You'll regret this when you're alone." I never replied. Silence is louder than any clapback. Her last stunt came when she showed up at my office building. Security had to escort her out after she tried causing a scene in the lobby, yelling that I owed her my success. I didn't even have to get up from my desk. Security emailed me the clip later. Watching her get dragged out on my screen with a coffee in hand was better than any TV show. By the end of the month, the dust had settled. Kenny was stuck with his parents, sulking about his bad luck. Celeste was broke, bitter, and blacklisted. The empire they thought they were building was just ashes. And me. I'd never felt more in control. I didn't just survive their betrayal. I used it as fuel. Celeste's little rowboat insult turned into a launch pad. While she was sinking, I was already halfway to the next stage of my life. The best part, I didn't have to yell, break things, or get messy. I stayed calm, played the long game, and let them choke on their own arrogance. Clean, surgical, exactly how I wanted it. But what I didn't know was that Celeste had no limits to her delusion. I thought her story was finished. Fired, blacklisted, broke, abandoned by Kenny, reputation shredded. In my mind, she was just another cautionary tale of arrogance meeting consequences. But Celeste wasn't done. People like her never admit defeat. They don't retreat quietly, they go nuclear. By this point, I was living the upgrade: condo with a skyline view, job promotion that came with a corner office, gym routine that actually showed results. On top of that, I was dating someone who treated me with genuine respect, a woman who didn't see me as a stepping stone but as a partner. Nights at home were peaceful, laughter was real. For the first time in years, I felt alive instead of drained. Tiana had moved on too. She'd started seeing someone and seemed genuinely happy. We'd stay in touch, swapping updates like war buddies after surviving the same battlefield. Every time Celeste's name came up, we both assumed she'd eventually fade into irrelevance. We underestimated her madness. It started with small signs. A strange message slipped under my condo door one morning. Sloppy handwriting, no signature, just "You ruined my life. This isn't over." I showed it to building security. They shrugged and said they'd keep an eye out. I didn't even bother replying or acknowledging it. Then came the phone calls. Blocked numbers, middle of the night. Breathing, sometimes sobbing, sometimes whispering things like, "You should have forgiven me," or "I made you." Creepy, pathetic, but not surprising. I logged them, forwarded the records to my lawyer, and kept moving. I thought maybe she'd get tired, burn out, vanish. Instead, she escalated. One Friday evening, I was cooking dinner with my girlfriend. Something simple, steak and roasted potatoes. Calm night, music playing low. I stepped onto the balcony for some fresh air when I heard pounding at the front door. Not knocking, pounding. I opened it, and there she was, Celeste, hair a mess, eyes wild, clothes wrinkled like she hadn't slept in days. She shoved past me into the condo before I even had time to block her. "You ruined my life," she screamed, spinning around in the living room. "Everything I had, gone because of you." I didn't flinch. I just shut the door behind her and leaned against the frame. "No, Celeste, everything you had is gone because of you. You cheated. You lied. You burned every bridge you had. That's not on me, that's on you." She jabbed a finger at me, shaking with rage. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Smirking, walking around like you're untouchable. "You destroyed me." My girlfriend stepped into the hallway, phone in hand. "Should I call the cops?" "Not yet," I said calmly, keeping my eyes on Celeste. That's when Celeste's madness hit full throttle. She yanked a small container from her purse, a beat-up plastic bottle with a dirty label half torn off. My stomach dropped, but I stayed rooted. "You don't get to win," she shrieked, and with one violent motion she hurled the liquid at me. It hit my arm, splashing across my skin. The burn was instant, sharp, like fire crawling under my flesh. I gritted my teeth, forced myself not to cry out. "Wow," I said through the pain, staring her down. "Industrial cleaner? That's your grand finale? From PowerPoints to prison in record time?" Her face twisted, half triumph, half insanity. She actually thought she'd scored a victory. But here's the thing about me, I don't lose control. Not even then. I grabbed a towel from the counter, pressed it to my arm, and with my other hand moved fast. I shoved her back against the wall, pinned her wrist so she couldn't grab anything else, and barked at my girlfriend. "Now call the cops." Celeste thrashed, spitting out incoherent insults. "You'll regret this. They'll believe me. You set me up." I almost laughed in her face. "Celeste, there are cameras in the hallway, cameras in here, and about 30 witnesses who've seen you spiral for months. You just handed me your obituary in court." My girlfriend had 911 on speaker, calmly giving details while I held Celeste in place. The operator told us to stay where we were. Cops were en route. 5 minutes later they arrived, lights flashing, neighbors peeking from their doors. 2 officers came in. saw me holding Celeste against the wall, and immediately separated us. I lifted the towel to show the burn. One officer's expression hardened. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault with a harmful substance." Celeste went ballistic, kicking, screaming, shouting about conspiracies. "He ruined me. He deserves it. You don't understand." The officer cuffed her, reading her rights while she squirmed. My girlfriend filmed the whole thing. That video would later become Exhibit A. The charges stacked up fast. Aggravated assault with a caustic substance, trespassing, harassment, and violating a stay-away order from the divorce decree. My lawyer didn't even have to sweat. The DA practically gift-wrapped the case. Celeste ended up in prison, not county jail, actual prison time. She cried in court, begged the judge for leniency, claimed she was mentally unstable from stress. The judge wasn't buying it. Too much evidence, too much intent. When the sentence was read, she collapsed in her chair, sobbing. I sat in the back row, arm bandaged, face calm, not smiling, not gloating, just watching the inevitable play out. Life after that felt clean. The final thread had been cut. Celeste was no longer a nuisance, no longer lurking in the corners of my life. She was locked away, exactly where she belonged. My arm healed, scar faint but permanent. Honestly, I don't mind it. Every time I see it, I'm reminded of two things: how far she was willing to go, and how far I came by refusing to sink to her level. The best revenge wasn't the exposure dinner. It wasn't the lawsuits or even the look on her face when the divorce papers landed. The best revenge was patience, strategy, letting her light the match and burn herself down while I built something stronger. Celeste ended in prison. I ended with freedom.